Okay, it's time to do some stitching now. As you can see, I've already started. Of course I got the needles locked onto the thread. And the way I'm doing this is this needle's going in, wiggle it a little bit. This needle goes on top of it, and then I take and I turn it so it's the second needle is now underneath, and that goes under the thread I just put through. It was kind of hard to see black on black, but you get the idea. Now the idea also is that I never drop the needle. It's either in my hands or it's in the leather. And pull it snug. Okay. Needle in each hand. Needle goes in, it's in the thread. This one goes on top. Now I have both needles in my hand. Turn it into the leather. And now I have both needles, one in each hand. It's just more efficient that way if you don't drop it and then have to fish for it. Now, yeah, it's coming out pretty good. I'm going to continue with this and we'll be back in a minute. One quick thing here. The reason I'm stitching it in this direction, starting at the bottom here and coming up here and around, is I believe that this point here will have the most stress on it, because when you're holstering and unholstering, that's, at least I believe, is where you're going to get your most stress, is up here, and less stress here where the stitch is going to end. It started here and it's going to end right there. So I like to end my stitches where I think the least amount of stress is going to be. Well, again, I'll keep going. We'll be back. Okay, now that I've reached the corner here, I'm going to go on through here and just keep putting the stitches in the way I've been doing it. Put that one underneath. Now, I'm basically going away from myself, so I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to put that one in, put the second needle on top, but I'm going to leave it on top. And the second needle goes over top of the first thread. Let me do that again. The needle goes in, wiggle it a little bit, make some room. This needle, second needle, goes on top, and then I turn it, and the second needle goes on top of the thread that's already in the hole. The reason I'm doing that is because now that I've turned the corner and I'm going the other way, the threads are going the other way. And I want to keep a consistent angle on that thread. Even though it's going to be sitting in a groove, and even though it's black on black, you really won't be able to see it all that well. Oopsie. I still want to keep it consistent, and I want it to look good, so that's why I do that. That's how I do it with any kind of thread. Like when I stitched this guy, I did it the same way. Did it going away and then coming back, changed it around, and had a consistent stitch on it. Let's see, another one I can show you. This is a similar style holster, and the stitching is a lot more visible because it's white on black, and I stitch it the same way. Guess you could really kind of see it better on this part. You can see where the angle of the stitch is, where it's coming toward me and where it's going away. And the angle, oh, it's kind of hard to see. The angle is the same in both directions. And that's what I'm going for. So I'm going to keep stitching, and again, we'll be back in a minute when we get to the end and do our back stitch. Alright, we're almost to the end here, and I'm about ready, to do my back stitching. Once I get my stitches back to where I started, which is right there, make a little room. And there we go. Take it out of the clamp. And just basically follow the stitch in the same direction. Like this one, I can look at the stitch and see that this one goes toward the top. Push that on through. Which means this guy here, the second one, will go toward the bottom. And that one gets pushed on through. Pull it snug and do it again. Again toward the top. Yeah, this is the one time I do drop the needles. This one goes toward the bottom. That way your back stitch is less noticeable. Because if you're following the stitch you put in, then you end up with less bulk because they're not crossing over. Goes underneath. And then one last time toward the top. One thing I do keep handy when I'm doing this is my flat nose pliers with the smooth jaws. Because sometimes when you're doing a back stitch like that, it gets a little bit difficult to pull it on through. Alright, now go ahead, clip that off. Leaving about that much. Take a lighter and melt the ends. And there you go with the stitch line on that side. Now I just need to do the same thing to this side. And then it's time to work on these edges. And when we come back, we'll start doing our edge burnishing. See you then.